Okay folks, continuing work on the Cadillac. Now, latest update is, I don't know if you can see the end of the oxygen sensor. This is the driver's side before CAT. Now we did a diagnostic on it with the computer, and it said the before CAT heater, oxygen sensor, whatever you want to call it, was reading wrong. So, since we had the exhaust off, and it looked like it was going to be easier to get to while the exhaust is off, we decided to change it out. Now, it's in a really tricky spot. I don't have a oxygen sensor socket, which may or may not have been helpful. I used the handy dandy stack your wrench method, and if you guys are not familiar with that, that is not how you do it. We'll come back to you in just a second. Alright, so a 22 millimeter fitting wrench. 22 millimeter fits the oxygen sensor, and I had to stack wrenches, because I like doing stuff junkyard style and not with all the right tools. So you can get away with a line wrench and another closed end wrench to get the distance you need and the torque. The torque spec on that sensor is like 39 foot-pounds. And so a good little tug on something that long is going to be plenty. Now, the passenger side before CAT is a totally different story. I don't even know if you can see it from the top. I mean, you might be able to see a little bit of it. There it is. I do believe that's it. So, the best way to get to that one, and we're not doing that today, because the best way to get to it is to take this drive shaft out. And so there you go, you can barely see the sensor. And this drive shaft is directly underneath it. This here, right here is your CAT, and then your drive shaft is right next to it. I don't think the rest of the exhaust being on here is going to affect the serviceability of that oxygen sensor, so we're going to see what happens when you replace one in a bank and not all of them at the same time. If we need to come back and replace the rest of them, we will, but right now we're trying to do it on a budget and spend the least amount of money, not the most. So we're going to replace the sensor that said was bad on the computer diagnostics and leave this one in, and we will go from there. Like I said, if the exhaust made a big difference in how this was going to come out, we probably would have just taken it out and replaced it, but it looks like the front drive shaft is going to need to come out to get that. So we're going to cross our fingers and hope that replacing one oxygen sensor in this system isn't going to send it all out of whack. So that's the latest update, and I just need to plug everything in. Oh, I want to show you that. I took a couple plugs loose because it made a lot more space. Those guys there's 2 plugs, and the other half is right there. Let's try the flash on this phone and see if that's going to work. Come back to you in just a second. It doesn't look like it's going to work right now. But yeah, I took a couple plugs undone. Right there you got these two bad boys. And to get these apart, you have to push down right here. Push down there, good. Don't pry on this, because prying here is not going to help anything. Prying anywhere isn't going to help anything. So I'm going to clean these with some contact cleaner before putting them back together, and then I'm going to make sure this oxygen sensor plug is out of the way of the exhaust. I wrapped it behind this coolant hose because that's going to keep it from ever getting anywhere near the exhaust. So we'll hit these with some contact cleaner, get everything plugged up and back in their rightful places. Hopefully there's some holes that aren't filled that this can plug right into. And it's looking like those are right there. All these sensors have these little stubs on the back, or I'm sorry, these plugs have these mount stubs, and they get pressed into these holes and they hold them up off of the exhaust. So we'll get that all back together, and I'll see you then.